Okay, this is Dr. Mark Carriage. You can call me Dr. Mark on Dr. Mark channel. I made one already YouTube video on hypnotic stuff, trying to introduce that. This is a professional video. I intend to do some for the general audience. Uh, so a little background on me. I've been around for a long time, and I feel it. Okay, I got my bachelor's degree in '79 SIU. I got to give them a credit. I really had a lot of fun. I went to St. my master's in counseling in '81, then finished a PhD in counseling in '85. Did my internship at Texas Tech, which was one of my best experiences ever, and then started working in the prison system. And by the way, I did study individual marriage and family therapy systems, but I wound up in the prison system. I think I saw two couples. At any rate, I'm currently in private practice, and I'm going to be doing some consultation with TCI. And I have to mention Chad Welch is at Metro Counseling, where I work for him in his private practice. I will say, even though we're going to be talking about the unconscious a little bit, I was able to travel with my father back in the early mid '80s. He was well known in the hypnotic circles, if you will, and he introduced me to the best in the world. And they did invest in me, so I thought I'd invest in other people to give back at the end of my stint career. Um, Matt Adams is with us, but in the background. Okay, so I did design a five-part thing on hypnotic. We were talking about the unconscious, so then I decided I was going to do one on the unconscious because when we're talking about the hypnotic experience, we're actually tapping in, consciously tapping into the unconscious. That's a paradox, which actually makes sense. When you're focusing, you hit the process. Yes, a process, not a thing, not a structure. It's a dynamic set of ever changing patterns, processes. I like that word process, by the way. Resources, materials, beliefs, emotions, memories, etc. So, what are we talking about? We're talking about, first of all, the human condition is so complex. There's multitudes of theories, and then there's theories upon the theories. Then people get to arguing about them, and then people take it real serious in the arguments. We used to fight over the mind body. We don't fight over that anymore. I hope we don't fight over that anymore because we realize it's now connected. But when I was in school, there used to be a big debate. So, what is the unconscious process? It's an entity or a phenomenon within ourselves. It's related to the hypnotic experience because it involves the unconscious process. The unconscious process is really centrally involved in the human condition. It's not no magical entity or something that you would find in some magic show. So let's look at some of the philosophical views because we can't really go anywhere without looking at philosophy, I think. Um, and it's interesting when people think about the human condition because you or one cannot escape your own philosophy or views about it. Thought I'd throw that in there. I'm a constructivist. I like to think that people construct their own inner realities and then their outer realities are co constructed by other people. Um, and so people have differences in narratives about their subjective processing material. Like two people could see the same event, have two very different versions of what happened. That's what makes it tricky in courts because there's different versions of what happens. So people construct their own inner reality, and together we all construct outer external realities, if you will, in multiple contexts. So the unconscious, I must say, it's a hypothetical construct because it's still hypothetically construed uh, to describe something involved with the human condition. There are numerous theories and views. Just pick out a personality theories book and go to a chapter, and you'll find something on how they define the unconscious. But it's a construct of what we're trying to describe here. Um, in terms of personality stuff, I like the positive psychology, existential phenomenological views, which all that jargon really means uh, subjective processing. Now, I know some people would be very upset. I just made a quick wish of that, but I think I'm getting back into that in a minute. Freud, he was very negative because he really had a shitty life. I probably can't say that word, I just did. But his life wasn't the best because he was born Jewish and he was picked on. Yes, picked on. And then eventually kicked out of his homeland because of the Nazi movement. So he really developed a very negative view of everything, um, and which he considered the unconscious just a cesspool of the id impulses, desires, urges, a negative cesspool of wishes and needs, drives, passions, a state of repressed experiences, which means you're not experiencing them consciously, kind of a regressed id, like a kid id, if you will. And that includes repressed, painful experiences and libido. That was a big thing in Freud's deal because because sex was a big thing back then. The sexual energy and drive, and it goes on and on and on. But it was he kind of viewed it as a passive storage of forgotten information, especially repressed thoughts and feelings that didn't want to emerge to consciousness. Called them sometimes hidden memories, instincts, desires. Our views, my views, and I've written a couple of pieces on it, is a more positive view of pretty much mirroring the late Milton H. Erickson, who was a psychiatrist, a famed hypnotherapist, really started modern hypnotic intervention, if you will. He started a lot of different things as well, but we don't have time to get into that tonight. So, what I meant by uh, the positive psychology and existential view is emphasis on human potential, postmodernism, which I mentioned, constructivism and social constructivism, people making choices at all levels, emphasis on the subjective nature and mind frame, subjective processing of the human condition, attaching meanings to experiences, life experiences, what our life's about, even purpose in our life, responsibility for ourselves, which tends to elude us in this current society. Focus on strength and human potential. I have to mention some of it is the study of consciousness and meeting needs. We all have needs. And I could summarize it all in a holistic view, which is the mind body connection. It's a common theme in a holistic view is both the mind and body are connected, which ultimately, to me, forms the unconscious process. There are in the human condition, there are experiential domains I want to point out. I've kind of made this up a little bit based upon what's out there in the literature. The cognitive is thoughts, ideas, attitudes. Affective is emotions, moods, feelings. Behavior is actual overt motor activities. I know the behaviorists will want to really argue about this. There is covert behavioral stuff, which is really in the cognitive realm as well. Then there's a spiritual connection to a higher power before you freak out on the higher power business and or meaning of one's life. I do believe there is a spiritual connection that's rooted in the unconscious. There's the biological and physiological organs and chemistry, which are largely unconscious processes. We operate and don't even think about it. If we had to think about all that, we'd probably be at a standstill. Then there's the social dimension, relationships and anything to do with that, the connections we make with others, and the contextual background. We all live in contexts and usually multiple contexts, multiple levels. That's kind of what it looks like. You can see everything's connected. In the middle is the mind body perceptual belief. And Ernest Ross used to call it state dependent memory and learning is in there. It's in the hypothalamic limbic part of the brain. But we'll get to that. So, a more synopsis of the great Milton Erickson, because I do think he was probably one of the best therapists there was, even though he was a psychiatrist. And no slants on psychiatry, but a lot of psychiatry is based on biological, physiological views of the human condition. and it does work as well. Levels and range. I think we're on a continuum of awareness and memories, ranging from immediate awareness, like consciousness, to subconscious stuff that can be available, pulled up, um, and to the unconscious material that is really out of reach for the moment. It's a deeper sense of unconscious. It's an active reservoir of memory storage. It's a positive resource, a reservoir of resources and potential. Potential is the key word. Implicit functioning, like intuition. We'll talk about that in a minute. There's a lot to intuition. I finally realized I was very intuitive about intuition the other day, and so I wrote some things down about that, gut feelings and such. But a futuristic projection is what I like. That's a synopsis. The structural levels, I just went through that. The immediate awareness, conscious awareness, the subconscious can be stuff made available. Unconscious